A little while ago, I posted a video on using multiple frames in NativeScript. That's useful if you want to navigate different parts of your screen separately. And I showed you how to do this in NativeScript Core. Well, this works a little differently in NativeScript Vue. So today we're going to be looking at the multiple frames tutorial in NativeScript Vue. That's coming right up. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Alex from nativescripting.com. We create advanced NativeScript courses to take your NativeScript skills to the next level. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to this channel by clicking the little subscribe button and the little bell next to it so that you don't miss any of the tutorials that are coming out. And if you weren't subscribed yet and you missed that video on multiple frames, don't worry, I linked to it down below in the description and in the card up above. That's a pretty cool video, so check that out. It's useful because I built on that video in later videos showing how to do custom events in NativeScript and how to do an animated bottom sheet. Now, a few of you have been asking me how to build the same exact thing, but using NativeScript Vue. Now, usually core Vue modules like labels and buttons and layouts and other such things in NativeScript are pretty interchangeable between the different flavors of NativeScript. For example, a label you can use the same way in NativeScript Core, NativeScript with Angular, and NativeScript Vue. So usually I just show you one version here on this channel, and that should be enough to get you going. But frames are a little bit different. Frames still have the same idea behind them in that they allow the separation of your screen into separate navigable areas, but the properties that we specify on the frames are different in NativeScript Vue. So let's dig into that. Oh, and thanks to my friend Tiago, the NativeScript Vue guru, for helping me out with this one. You can follow Tiago on Twitter. I'll link to him right here. Also, stay to the end of the video where I'll announce the winner of the previous giveaway. All right, let's do this. I'm going to create a new NativeScript Vue application, TNS create. Let's call this one demo multiple frames and Vue. I'm just going to hit enter here so I can get the prompt of which framework I want to select. And I'm going to go with Vue JS. All right, this will create my app project. I'm going to go into that folder and I'll open this up in Visual Studio Code. All right, so if we take a look at the app folder here and app.js, you'll see that we have a frame already in here. So we can access frames in Vue, no problem. And that's what we're going to work on. Now, if you've seen my previous tutorial on multiple frames, we were using NativeScript Core there. I named the main page. I named it main page. So I'm gonna name this one main, the main component. So I'll just rename home to main basically, just to be more consistent with that other tutorial. All right, so now that I have this global frame, or the topmost frame I should say, and I have my main component inside there. Now I can close out app.js. Let's head over to components. This is the component I need to rename to main. All right, so this has a template, it has a page, and some other markup. I'm gonna keep the grid layout around, and I'm just gonna remove everything else here, and including the class on the page. What I do want to do is hide the action bar. So I'm gonna create the action bar hidden attribute here. I'm gonna set that to true. So inside my grid layout, this is where I want to have multiple frames. I'm not going to be repeating a lot of the things I was to explain a lot of the stuff that I did in the previous multiple frames tutorial, because a lot of that stuff applies to Vue as well. But there are some differences. Here's the big difference. In Vue, when you define a frame, you don't define the default page. Instead, what you do is you define a component to load inside that frame. So I'm going to create a new component inside this frame called homepage. And I gave this frame an ID of homepage as well. We're going to need that a little bit later. And then I'm going to create another frame here. This time I don't need an ID because we're going to be using it right here. And this is going to be that bottom frame where the action pane is. So I'm going to call this one action page. This is going to be a new component as well that I'm going to have to create. And this is basically the markup that we're going to be using. Now, I also explained why we're using a grid layout in the previous tutorial. That's in order to space out these frames. I'm also going to go down here. We don't need any styling here because we're going to be getting some styling elsewhere. Speaking of styling, let's just do that real quick. I'm going to open up app.scss here, the Sass file, and I'm going to paste in a couple of styles that we're going to need. One is for the button, just to style a button the way we want. And one is for the page name so that it's in large font. And I'm just going to close this out. All right, back to main Vue single file component here. We've referenced two components that don't exist right now, homepage and action page. Those two must be created, otherwise we're going to get errors. So I'm going to go and create actionpage.vue. I'm going to create another one called homepage.vue. And if you remember from the last tutorial, we're going to navigate the top pane, this one right here, the one with the homepage. We're going to navigate inside that frame. So we're going to navigate to somewhere. We need another page to go to. So I'm going to call this component page2page.vue. Let's just create a basic structure here. I'm going to create a template, and inside the template, we need a page. And this is page 2, so this doesn't really do anything. All we're going to do here is show a label with a text that says page 2, and we're going to apply that class that I just defined, page name. All right, and here's the script section. Here, we're just going to export default and just going to be an empty object. Okay, when I save it, it reformats it a little bit. Sorry about that. All right, I'm going to copy this code and paste it in homepage, and I'm going to paste it in action page just so that we have something there to start with. I'm going to save everything and go to main.vue again so that we can actually import those components here. So here in script, I'm going to import homepage. That's coming from the homepage module. And I'm also going to import action page. That's coming from action page module. All right, so now we have export defaults. We don't need this computed section that came pre-configured with the template. We do need the components section. So we need this components property in order to register these two components that we're importing. Otherwise, things are just going to break and the error messages are not very helpful. So make sure you add the components property with the components that you've imported inside your export here. Also, we're going to need to do something when this bottom frame loads. If you saw the previous tutorial, so that's going to need a loaded event, and I'm going to call this action frame loaded, just like we did before. So I'm going to need to define this as a method in our component down here. So I'm going to put a comma here and add a methods property, which is going to have action frame loaded. It's going to take some args, and let's head down here. We're going to do some stuff down here, but first we need to get a hold of the frame itself. So because frames are views, frame is inherit from the view class in NativeScript. They also have this loaded component, and they have all the event handlers on them that views have, including gestures like taps and so on. And we can also animate them and move them around on the screen, which is what we're going to do here. So we're going to get a hold of the frame, and that's coming from args.object. And then later we're going to need to move this frame down on the screen, which is what we've done before, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So we have two frames that we're loading, the home page and the action page. Let's work out the home page. The home page is going to have a label, but I'm going to wrap that inside a stack layout because we're going to have a couple more components here. So there's our label. This is going to be actually page 1 with that same page name class. And we're going to have a button so we can actually navigate to the second page. Here I'm going to say go to 2. And since this is a button, we're going to need a tap handler here. So I'm going to say @tap, and this is going to call a handler called page1 button tap. I'm being pretty consistent with the previous tutorial here. Inside the script section, we're going to need to import that page 2 so that we can navigate to it. That's going to be the page 2 page, and that's coming from page 2 page component. Now in our export, we need to make sure we register the component. That's the page 2 page component. And then we're going to have a methods section, and that's going to have our tap handler. So I'm going to copy and paste the tap handler here, and we need to navigate. How do we navigate in NativeScript Vue? Well, we can use the global $navigate2 function. Sorry, it's not global. It's actually part of the Vue component. That's why we're referring to it as this. So we're going to navigate to page 2, but we're going to need something else here, and I'm going to come back to that. I want to show you what happens if you just use the regular navigate to without any options. The navigate to function takes options here, but we're going to need that, but we're going to come back to that. All right, so home page is set up. The action page is that lower panel, so let's fill that out. On the page element here, I want to hide the action bar. So I'm going to say action bar hidden equals true. And I'm going to set the background color to red just so that it looks a little bit different. Actually, I'm going to set it to this view color, which is this hex color that's part of the Vue branding. Hey, why not? We're not going to need a label here, but I do want to have a stack layout. And I want to limit the height of the stack layout to 60 dips. If you don't know what dips are, you can check out the NativeScript styling course on nativescripting.com, where we talk about all sorts of styling topics. I'm also going to set the vertical alignment to top here. All right. And then button, we're going to have a button here that says tap me, just so that we can see some kind of action happening. So I am going to need a tab handler here, tap me tap. And also on Android, I'm going to need to specify a styling attribute for margin top. We're going to need to move it a little bit by 20 dips here, just because on Android we need to shift it down a little bit. Otherwise it looks a little bit weird. Okay, so here we need to have a methods section, and I need the tap me tap event handler, which is just going to say alert. An alert is a global function that we can call similar to the way it works on the web. All right, we're done with our action page. So now we have 2 frames. Let's go ahead and run this project. I'm going to press Control and backtick so I can jump right into my terminal and say tns run iOS -- bundle. And this is going to run my Vue project in an iOS simulator. All right, there's my simulator. It popped up. Now we're just waiting for the build to finish. All right, and there is my application. And there's our Vue color too. So right now what you're seeing is that action page with the tap me button. If I tap that, you get the alert. So one thing we need to do is go back to main here. And this is that bottom frame with the action page. You see that we loaded it, but we didn't do anything with it as far as moving it down and out of the way. So let's finish that up. Right here, we have move this frame down on the screen comment. We need to do that by getting a hold of the frame. We already have the frame reference right there. So that's going to be frame, translate Y, and I want to get the height of the entire screen. How can I get the height of the screen in NativeScript? Well, we have access to it by using the platform module that comes with NativeScript. So I'm going to import screen that's coming from TNS core modules platform. And now I have screen and I have the main screen property on there, and I can get the height in dips. So right now, if I do this, it'll move completely off the screen, but I want to have it just a little bit less than completely off the screen, so it sticks up from the bottom. So I'm going to do -80 here. All right, that's going to rebuild and reload. And let me just restart this to make sure everything is working properly, because right now it doesn't look like it is. Okay, and here we go. So it looks like HMR and Vue has a few kinks to work out. Sometimes you might need to restart the app. So there's our frame at the top, which has the main page navigation. And there is our frame on the bottom, which has that separate tap me function. If I hit tap, there we go. There's that alert. So what happens if I click on go to 2 right now? If I click on this, you can see that the entire screen navigates. And that's not what we want, is it? We wanted only the top part to navigate. Well, this is the different thing about how to do this in Vue, because you need to get a hold of the reference to the frame that you want to navigate. And the frame we want to navigate is this top frame right here. So do you remember we gave the frame an ID? And you might be wondering, why did we give a frame an ID? Well, that's so that when we navigate, we can actually specify what frame we want to use. Right now, if I go to homepage and we take a look at our navigate function, this navigate to function by default will navigate the topmost frame, which lives out here in app.js, this one right here. But we want to navigate the frame that's actually in main.vue. So how do we do that? Well, that's the second parameter that we can pass to the navigate to function. If we do a comma here and an object, we can specify the frame by ID. So I'm going to specify the ID of that frame, and that's homepage. All right, let's take a look now. Okay, we have that tap me function down on the bottom. And if I say go to 2, only the top frame navigates now. And that's exactly what we want. So we wanted to have that separation in frames. And the tap me function is still available on the page 2. So we can separate this out and navigate the frames separately. If you like this video, consider subscribing to this channel. I've got a few more videos that are already in the bag and recorded that are coming out that are pretty cool, so you're going to enjoy that. And you're going to want to subscribe so that you can get those, right? Yeah, so click on that button and click the little bell so you don't miss any of those tutorials that are coming out. I'm going to get right to the giveaway, but first, let's read some of your comments that you've posted in response to the videos that I've been sharing. Recently, I've posted this video about the animated paging indicator. Mitan Sarsha says, amazing content, thank you. you. Thank you, Matan. Appreciate that. Nikolai Korolyov says, great work. Your videos always inspire me. Thanks. I really appreciate that, Nikolai, and I enjoy hearing good responses, and I'm glad that this is helping you. Rakesh, good to see you again, Rakesh. He says, that's cool. Hopefully that's going to be useful and you can implement that in your own apps. Sebastian Duku says, thanks for the content, Alex. I'm currently trying to encourage NativeScript in my surrounding dev community. Very cool, Sebastian. But the lack of community support, libraries mostly, is the most blocking factor to adopt this technology. Can you upload content in creation of libraries with full Android iOS with vanilla Angular and Vue support, like creating a Gmaps TNS library with the Android and iOS implementations? Well, first I'd like to say, Sebastian, that the NativeScript community is pretty big and there's a lot of people that are working behind the scenes for free to bring you good content. I'm doing this video channel for free also. I'm bringing you this content to help you out. I'm part of the community. I'm not part of the NativeScript team. And there's also like-minded folks like me that are helping out. They're building plugins. Some of the people off the top of my head are Nathaniel Anderson. He's got a ton of plugins out there. Brad Martin has pioneered being the plugin machine. He also works out and he likes to show his muscles on Twitter. So a very good, well-rounded dev that works out and writes awesome plugins. OC Fortune, he's in Trinidad. He's a plugin master also. Eddie Verbruggen from the Netherlands is creating a ton of plugins also. And there's a lot of other people in the community that are creating NativeScript content. There's the NativeScripting blog posts that several authors have been contributing to from around the world. We have people like William, who's just recently joined. He posted a pretty cool animated Cradle tab bar tutorial. You should definitely check that out. We have people like Shiva Prasad, who's also contributed to this channel with his own tutorials. And Tiago, I've mentioned him earlier in the video. He's also contributed articles and posts there as well. So the community is out there. Check out the NativeScript marketplace, market.nativescript.org, and you'll see a link of samples. And these are community provided samples mostly that the people are sharing, and they're sharing the code of how they built different parts of their applications. It's a very nice resource and you can find lots of good examples over there. All right, now it's time for the giveaway. I've announced that I'm giving away the NativeScripting Securing NativeScript Applications course. And the winner for that course is Wadai Hassan. Thanks a lot, Wadai, for sharing my video on Twitter with the iScriptNative hashtag. So I hope you get in touch with me on Twitter and enjoy your course. And speaking of Twitter, you can follow me there. I'm @Digitalix. I tweet about random NativeScript stuff, JavaScript, Angular, Vue, and I will see you all in the next video.